Derbyites, it's high holy day for us Emmy crazies. Welcome back to Gold Derby. How exciting that after months and months and months and months and months of talking and thinking and dreaming about the Emmys, it's finally arrived. And I, for one, am super excited about that. And I am so thrilled, most of all, that I am joined by these three guys. Luca Giliberti I'm dialing in from Germany. David Buchanan, he's dialing in from the East Coast. And Denton Davidson is dialing in from the West Coast. And I'm dialing in from Sydney. Notice how I use the word dialing in like I'm that old. But anyway, that's a whole other story. So, guys, I think we should just get straight into it. Welcome. I'm so thrilled that you're able to join us today. Now, look, there's a lot to talk about today. Okay, we know that there's literally 25 categories that we're going to try to cover. Apologies if we don't get to all of them. And I think for each of our slots, we've got 3 slots today of different contributors. We really need to talk about those really hardcore categories that no one knows what the hell is going to happen. And there's a few of those. I've pretty much figured out that it's basically the 4 supporting acting races are pretty hard to kind of work out. Lead actor in a drama is just a complete mess in a good way. And comedy series is the one that is keeping me up at night. Again, I need to get out more, but that aside for now. So I haven't even asked you guys offline to prepare for this because I just want it to be really off the cuff. I want to get straight into the comedy series because I really want to know what you guys think. And I'm going straight to you, Luca, because you were the first guy to arrive before we pressed record. What's going to win comedy series and why?
You know, last year was so nice because I think the comedy races were so easy to predict. I think I went 7 for 7, and honestly, this year I could see myself going 0 for 7. I find these comedy categories so unpredictable. I think, you know, I don't need to repeat what's already been said, but I think everyone agrees that there are 5 series that have a legitimate chance at winning. The only 3 that probably don't are What We Do in the Shadows, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Maisel. And the other 5, honestly, you could make a case for any one of them. Obviously, Abbott Elementary is coming off of a very important casting win. We know how important the casting win is in this category. I believe every winner under this new system, which has been in place since 2016, had won casting. So that's very, very important. But the problem with Abbott is that it does not have directing and editing nominations. And there have been a lot of comparisons to Coda, our recent Best Picture winner. And I understand why those were made because Coda also did not have editing and directing nominations and still got the top prize. But I do think there's a big difference between these voting bodies. So I'm not sure that comparison is necessarily helpful. Ted Lasso obviously won last year, came back with 20 nominations, was blanked at last week's Creative Arts Emmys. That does not necessarily mean that it can't win any prizes tonight. But what I will mention is that, for me at least, what the creative arts made me realize is that Ted Lasso might not be as strong as we thought it was. Even if you look at the writing and directing categories, it submitted multiple episodes in both this year and only got 1 writing and 1 directing nomination, which I think is very important because last year it got in all of its submissions. It got in 3 directing and 2 writing. So I think what that suggests is that there might be less support from those 2 branches. So what I'm basically saying is that my decision came down to Ted Lasso, Hacks, and Abbott Elementary. And I'm going with Hacks at the moment. I don't feel good with that prediction, but I feel like it's the show with the fewest detractors. It has all the nominations it needs. And it's a show that I think was in 2nd place last year. I think we all agree on that. And I feel like a lot of people could be like, you know what, I voted for Ted Lasso last year, so I'm going to vote for Hacks this year. And I feel like that's why I have it predicted, but I do not feel confident. I have no idea what's happening, and I could easily see Abbott Elementary win without editing and directing nominations. I'm just not brave enough to predict it.
You know what? I think you could be onto something because of all the reasons that you just said, and because this is a really difficult category. There are really 5 shows that are kind of up, towards the top of the list. Unfortunately for the other 3, because those other 3 shows are great as well. But I think you have a real point with Hacks. And I feel like some people are coming around to that notion because, for example, I have been thinking Ted Lasso the whole time because it feels like a default. Like, when you can't make up your mind, you go with Ted Lasso. But why not Hacks? And it did so well at the Creative Arts. It's got everything it needs, as you say. And maybe it's Hacks' turn to take this out. It's a difficult one. Okay, so now to the double Ds. Who would like to go first? I'm going to go with you first, David. What do you think? Do you agree?
Yeah, such great analysis from Luca there. I agree on a few points. Number one, on casting, which is such a helpful bellwether. When Veep won 3 in a row, it won casting 3 in a row. Even though it was an established show, it won for its 4th, 5th, and 6th season. So the cast didn't change a lot, right? They added new cast members and, of course, had great guest stars, but it won the casting award 3 times in a row. The fact that Ted Lasso didn't win casting on its 2nd season, could be a bellwether that it's not Ted Lasso. Does it mean it's Abbott Elementary? Well, I'm not clear on that at all. The other thing I want to say about the writing and directing categories off of Luca's point is, last year having so many of Ted in those categories, I think really helped pave the way for Hacks to win writing and directing. Not that they weren't incredibly deserving winners that obviously had a lot of support, but the fact that there were so many Ted Lasso episodes in there, I don't think was very helpful. This year, they have 1 episode nominated for writing and directing, Ted Lasso, and I don't think, we could ask, but I don't think any of us are predicting it to win writing or directing when it has no kind of internal competition. So that to me also signals that, yeah, maybe Ted Lasso is not as strong as a frontrunner as it was, even though it has the same number of nominations, not in necessarily all the right places. I'm, swayed a little bit by your argument, Luca, about Hacks. I'm really toying with it now because I have Abbott out front right now. I think the lack of the nominations in some categories is very concerning. I think it will win writing tonight. It won casting. Is it going to win just those 2 and win comedy series? Some people are thinking supporting actress. I don't actually have it predicted for supporting actress right now. That could be another, blunder. We'll see in a few hours. So, I'm not terribly clear on it, but I do think, I had Ted Lasso as a really strong number 2, and I was kind of jostling between Abbott and Ted Lasso as my 1 and 2. But, Luca, you're helping me think that maybe Ted Lasso is not really on point there.
Oof, this category, seriously, it's giving me so much anxiety. Denton, I had a look at your predictions earlier, and I don't know if you've changed them, but I feel like you're on the same page as David. Is that still the case?
I am, and I'm also very intrigued by putting Hacks on the top as well. There's a lot of love for Hacks in the industry, and when you look at shows that have won, I mean, Veep didn't win its first year, and it came back and won it a few years later. So shows can not win for their first season and come back and win. And if you actually look at the history, with Ted Lasso winning last year as a new show, if Abbott wins this year as a new show, the last time 2 new shows won was The Cosby Show and The Golden Girls, almost 40 years ago. So, wow. I mean, it's not common for 2 new shows to make an impact like that back to back. But I mean, there's so many tough calls. Obviously, the Creative Arts, they loved Hacks. Laurie Metcalf winning was a huge, feather in their cap. And people had Jane Lynch. People didn't think that Laurie could get past that vote split. There's so many Hacks actors in that category. So it'll be interesting to see how the night goes. If Hannah Einbinder wins, we'll see how directing and writing go. I have Abbott winning writing and series, and no, I'm not confident any more than anyone else is. But 7 years in a row, we've had casting match up with comedy. So, I mean, that's as good an argument as any. None of us are stupid if we get this this wrong.
That's a good point. In fact, I think that should be our tagline. None of us are stupid if we get this wrong. Because it's so true. Because I've, for weeks I had Only Murders in the Building in my top slot because I just felt like it was really peaking with its 2nd season and people just so loved that show. And then it didn't win Guest Actress, nor did it win music or even maiden title theme. And I thought, what's going on there? And so they kind of gave me some pause, but it does have directing and writing tonight. It has acting, doesn't have Selena Gomez. So there's a few detractors, and I thought, okay, what's going to win in its place? I had Ted Lasso in there for a while because of the default vote. Don't know where I pulled that from, because who cares about default these days? It's all about passion. I can't remember who said that in our comments, but it's so true. It's all about passion these days. So I'm going with Hacks, but if Abbott Elementary wins, then I won't be surprised. And frankly, if it wins, I will be upstanding, clapping and cheering, and because I just think that show is so brilliant and hilarious. And so let's move on, guys, because we have plenty of other things to talk about. I really wanted to focus now, still in comedy, on the acting prizes. So if we could just get this out of the way, lead actress, I think, is going to go to Jean Smart. I don't think there's a lot really to talk about there. But do any of you feel like if there's a chance for someone else, but perhaps maybe Quinta Brunson or someone else, do you think that's even remotely possible, Luca? What do you think?
I absolutely do think it's possible. I think Abbott Elementary getting 4 acting nominations for 4 first-time nominees, I think that's very significant. You know, first-time nominees always have a much more difficult time getting in on an unlimited ballot. So the fact that it was able to produce those 4 acting nominations for first-timers, I think, is very significant. She is the show. I mean, you have to remember that actors can only vote in the acting categories and for series. So if they want to recognize Quinta Brunson individually for her achievement on this show, for wearing multiple hats, they can only do it here. So I do think she is definitely competitive. The reason I went with Jean Smart is that, you know, like we've talked about, Hacks really hasn't slowed down. It still has 17 nominations like last year. It's still a force to be reckoned with. And Jean Smart is just, I mean, a titan on in the industry, on that show. And a lot of people have guessed that this would be another Julia Louis-Dreyfus, where she just wins multiple, for multiple seasons. I don't know if she'll win as many times as Julia, but I do think she'll be able to squeak out a second win at least. What I would like to mention, I wish Kaylee Cuoco had a chance of winning. I think she gave the performance of the year on the Flight Attendant second season, and I'm glad she got the nomination. It's just a shame that she's not somewhere in the top 3 at least, or in the top 2 at least. She might be top 3, but just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, look, I'll also say that I wish Elle Fanning had a better chance, because I just felt like her performance in season 2 of The Great was so brilliant. But yeah, look, David, do you feel like this is Jean Smart and there's really not a lot to talk about in this category?
I wouldn't say not a lot to talk about, but I do think that Hacks is just too strong overall to not predict Jean Smart. You know, as much as Quinta is Abbott Elementary, you know, Jean Smart is Hacks in front of the camera. You know, the show is kind of inseparable from her character and her performance in particular. So yeah, I don't think she's going to win 6 either. I don't think she's going to beat Julia, only because, you know, Hacks started so strong out of the gate. You know, Veep in its first season, I think, had 3 or 4 nominations total. It had like comedy series, Julia, casting, and one other nomination. And over time, towards season 4, you know, built and then exploded with a comedy series win. Hacks is so strong now. The first season, winning writing and directing, nominated for comedy series, you know, excellent number of nominations this year. I don't think it's going to continue at that strength for, you know, seasons 3, 4, 5, and maybe 6. But yeah, this year, I think Jean's got it.
Well, so Denton, do you agree with Denise wrote us in our comments that Jean Smart is the next Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with David and Luca that maybe not that many in a row. We don't even know if the show will go on for that many seasons in a row. But she is hard to beat. I would say maybe like 80%, maybe 80-20 for Quinta. I don't think it's anyone else other than those 2. But there's so much gravitas to Jean Smart and Hacks. And I do think that people will think, you know, when it comes to the acting, like if you're focused on the acting, what is the best acting performance? And I do think they're more likely to go with Jean here and, you know, hope that Quinta is rewarded either for series or writing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, too. I feel like it's Jean's to lose. In actor, it's a little less clear to me, because I feel like Jason Sudeikis could absolutely win this again, especially for season 2. What a great season he had. And of course, Bill Hader who is Barry and is phenomenal in that show. And then you even have the two Martins, Steve Martin and Martin Short, in Only Murders. Maybe they cancel each other out because neither of them have overwhelming support over the other one. Nicholas Hoult, Donald Glover, great to be nominated. I don't think they're probably up there as real contenders tonight. So I'm going with Bill Hader. I feel like that's the safe choice. And Denton, I was wondering if you were on the same page, thinking that it's probably this is the Barry one. This is going to go on the Barry ledger.
I'm on the same page. He's a returning champion as well. I mean, it's been longer since the show was on, but he didn't lose. He's just been away. If Steve Martin and Martin Short weren't both in this category, I think it would be closer on their parts. I early on I was tempted to go with Steve, but then as I was watching, I mean, I myself would have voted for Martin, and I know other people are feeling the same way. And I think that's a real problem for them in that category. So that's why I think they struggle. So I do think it's between Jason and Bill, and so I'm going to go with Bill in this category. But it's tough. It's another tough call.
So it's such a great list. And in fact, I would have voted for Martin Short in a heartbeat. Absolutely. I'd vote for him if he read out the phone book. For people who are below the age of 20, phone books are things that we used to have to look up numbers. What about you, David? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Bill Hader, one of the reasons why is the recency of Barry airing. Ted Lasso season 2 was perfectly timed for the Emmys last cycle. That's why we saw, Brett Goldstein overcome some of his co-stars to win. And it did so well because it had those second season episodes airing last Emmy cycle when they were voting. I think that's a problem and we can talk about the supporting actors too in a moment, but I think how long it's been since Ted Lasso aired is going to be a bit of a problem for its acting contenders. So for that reason alone, the fact that Barry aired so much more recently, Bill Hader's got a few Emmys under his belt already. They obviously love the role. I think that gives him an edge. I wouldn't be surprised if Jason won. Especially if Jason wins, I think, I'll be very upset that I didn't predict Ted Lasso for series. I think that'll be a very clear sign that, they liked season 2 of Ted more than, I might be giving them credit for. But that's my rationale.
I feel the same way. Like if Ted Lasso starts finally winning stuff tonight,
after Lasso can roll through the night. I mean, this
easily
happen. It's not impossible. And I mean, I could get nothing but Gene Smart right in these categories. It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah.
Don't you think, Luca?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with everything David said, and I think that's very important. And one thing I would add is that Bill Hader has a second acting nomination for Curb Your Enthusiasm in the same category that Jason Sudeikis could have been nominated for SNL, and he didn't get the nomination. So we know that Bill has that extra surplus of support. And, Curb Your Enthusiasm doesn't have any other acting nominations. So the fact that he is the only one, I think, speaks to how much support he has from actors. Again, this is the only place actors can reward him individually for wearing multiple hats on that show. We know he might win a different category. We can maybe discuss that in a second. If he wins a third Emmy for this role, he will be the first person under this new voting system, which has been in place since 2016, to win 3 Emmys for the same show. There are a few others who can also do the same. Julia Garner is among them. But that would be a huge accomplishment, and that's what also makes me very nervous because no one's done it yet. But what I think the difference is, and I think David mentioned or someone mentioned, is that the show has been off the air for 3 years. So the fact that it returned after 3 years, I don't want to say it feels like a new show, but because it's been gone for so long, I feel like people have responded to this new season differently, and I think that's what'll make a third win quite possible.
Oh, okay. Well, you guys are completely hopeless. You're not helping me at all. I'm kidding. Let's talk about something a bit more difficult, and that's the supporting categories in the comedy races, because we're going to focus on these pretty much for this slot, guys. So, these are tough now. Comedy supporting actor is probably the least tough of all the 4 supporting categories, to be honest. It looks like most people, I'm looking now, pretty much all of our editors are predicting Brett Goldstein, except for me. So I would love to know what you guys think. Luca, back to you. Supporting actor in a comedy series. Are you going with Brett Goldstein?
I'm actually not. And that, I have to say, this year, I'm at a point where I looked at my predictions and I just got very bored. So I started making a lot of changes. But I have Henry Winkler in first. And I think we have to acknowledge the fact that, again, Barry has been off the air for 3 years. It came back in late April and ran through June. The 3 months of peak TV and the last 2 months of Emmy eligibility. So the fact that it came back, was able to get 14 nominations, to me speaks to how much support this show has. And I don't even think it peaked in visibility at the time of nomination voting. I think a lot of people probably still caught up with this season after that. And we know that Emmy vote, that recency bias is a real thing. So I think it's possible that the last thing people have watched, these voters have watched, is Barry of all these shows. And if you watch that finale, I find it very difficult not to vote for Henry Winkler. It is one of the best moments of the season, not just on Barry, but on television in general. But he would be a repeat winner. He won in 2018, of course. So that's what has me a bit hesitant. Brett Goldstein makes the most sense. He won last year. Fan favorite character. But I think the reason I'm a bit hesitant there is, going back to what David said earlier, is that a lot of people voted for him last year, probably with season 2 in mind, because it was airing at the time or had just aired. So will they vote for the same season a second time? I don't know.
Oof. Denton, why Brett Goldstein?
This is the one comedy category where I just looked at everyone. I was like, it's sort of a placeholder for me. Like, I honestly don't know. Luca just made a very good point about Henry Winkler, and just for everyone watching, you can make changes until 4:45 Pacific time. So there's time to make changes.
Yeah, keep changing.
And I might. It's a very good point. I'm not sure if vote splitting will matter with Anthony Kerrigan category. I'm not sure how that's going to work out for him. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Tyler James Williams pulled off an upset. We also have to look, Gold Derby, we're the best at predicting these awards. But the Emmys are not the Oscars. There's not as many precursors. It's a little more, roll the dice. The last 3 years, we're sitting at about 65, 66%. So if you look at the 25 categories that we're all betting on tonight, 8 of them, you can shake up the odds a little bit. So if you go with the odds, you're probably going to land right in the middle of the pack. But if you want to win, you better not go with the odds on at least 6. So, this might be one of those categories where you want to shake things up.
I love that. That's a really important to mention, Denton, it's always my philosophy. Like, don't go with the consensus 100%. The trick is, David, is to know which ones not to go with the consensus for. And I'm wondering if you feel like this is one of those ones that you'll just go with the tide, or will you go your own way?
I am going Brett, which kind of contradicts my argument earlier about Jason. But I do think, as Luca just said, that is Roy Kent is a fan favorite character. I don't know really if voters, when they look at the ballot and pick who they want to vote for, are really saying, well, I voted for him last season for season 1, but I was thinking of season 2. I think they might see the name on the ballot and just vote for him because they love the character. They might not remember why they voted for him last year, because it was, the season that they're voting on now. So I do think, I think another factor in why I'm predicting him is I don't know if the co-stars that are nominated with him are really going to detract that many votes from him. Which we had a similar kind of case last year where there were even more co-stars from Ted Lasso nominated in this category, and Brett still won. So that's kind of, it's kind of a safe choice. I'm making other kind of riskier picks in other categories, so I want to kind of, go with the consensus on this one here. I'm not that confident because I don't know personally if I would vote for Brett this time around, really. So, it's kind of, as you said, Rob, just kind of choosing to go with the tide on this one because I'm making, other choices elsewhere.
It's a good point. It's a good thing to do. I think Brett Goldstein had the funniest line of the whole season of any show when he was with the little girl and her breath was really bad and he kind of was so repulsed by it. I screamed. I laughed so hard. And I just think that so he should get the Emmy maybe just for that. But also I'm going with Anthony Carrigan. I think I'm the only editor who's going with him because first episode, he's just so lovable and he really comes out of his shell, as a gay man. And then there's an episode later in the season where he's being held captive in like a dungeon type thing where you think, there's a tiger, and he just really impressed me. And I feel like they might go with him because it's kind of his turn from Barry. I'm going with my gut on that one. I don't feel confident at all. And I expect when we look at the editors list at the end with all of our predictions, I'll be right at the bottom, and I'm cool with that. I don't care. So that's what I'm going with. Supporting actress is a slightly different story, obviously, because it could be Hannah Waddingham again or Hannah Einbinder. I'm just looking. Most people are either going with Waddingham or Einbinder, but there are a couple of people who are predicting Janelle James, which really excites me, including our amazing director tonight, Riley Chow. If Janelle James wins, I will be so thrilled. She's the Megan Mullally of this season. And I'm just like, every time she comes up on my screen, I'm already smiling. I just think, what a performance. But I don't have it predicted because I just feel like Cheryl Lee Ralph will take some votes away from her. So I'm curious, guys. What do you think? Denton, what do you think will happen here? Which Hannah are you going for?
I recently just switched. I had Hannah Waddingham for most of this season, and I finally just made that switch to Einbinder. I was hesitant because Waddingham won last year, of course, but just the way this season has gone, the way that Hacks performed at last week's Creative Arts, the way that it looks to be performing this year, and not to mention she won our Gold Derby Award, and that's not for nothing. So I'm going to go with Hannah Einbinder. I do agree that there's real potential for Waddingham to repeat. I think there's also potential for Janelle James to win. The reason I didn't vote for or predict Janelle James was Cheryl Lee Ralph. And it was another case for me of Only Murders in the Building where, when I watch it, Cheryl Lee Ralph is the performance that I gravitate to. So that was why I couldn't predict Janelle James, because I just thought she would have too many detractions from Cheryl Lee Ralph. But who knows? I have Hannah Einbinder this year, and we'll see where that lands.
Oh, what a category. Luca, what do you think?
I've been going back and forth between Hannah Einbinder and Janelle James for the past few days now. I'm on Janelle James now, but everything that Denton said might convince me to switch again because, well, the reason I have Janelle James, I think, is obvious. It's a fan favorite character. It's the breakout character of the season. I think the fact that Abbott was able to get 4 acting nominations straight out of the gate is very significant. And I feel like that support has to translate to some kind of win, even though it doesn't necessarily. But I do agree that there is a lot of support for Cheryl Lee Ralph, and that worries me a lot. And even Hannah Waddingham. A lot of people preferred Juno Temple in season 2 of Ted Lasso. I don't know if voters are that considerate or if voters even agree with that. We're often, we're not the same like the Television Academy, but I know a lot of people who would vote for Juno Temple for season 2. And the thing with Hannah Einbinder is the fact that she probably was in second place last year. I feel like Hacks has just grown in support, especially from actors. And with so many co-stars competing against one another in this category, I feel like Hannah Einbinder could easily win, especially since she had such a great season on the show. So this race is incredibly, incredibly difficult, but I'm sticking with Janelle James for now because she plays such a breakout character, but I might switch to Einbinder before the prediction center closes.
Now, before I ask you, David, what you are predicting, we have a really special guest. Chris Beecham, our managing editor, one of the most amazing people on the planet, is at the Emmys for the first bloody time ever. Unbelievable. How are you going, Chris?
Hey, I'll just stay here a few seconds. I've covered the press room for many years. Been on the red carpet for many years, which I'm glad I'm not today because it's Seems like it's 100 degrees outside, but this will be my first time in the auditorium watching the show.
Yeah, how exciting. I recall being there in 2019 where you're standing right now, and it was one of the greatest nights of my whole life. I have 5 highlights of my life, and that's one of them. So, Chris, I expect that you'll be saying the same thing when I see you next week when I'm in LA. I just hope you're having the best time. What are you most looking forward to, Chris?
I don't know. I'm just looking forward to the ceremony, seeing what it looks like and how it works in person. I don't think I've been to a big award show in the auditorium. Of course, in the press room, you're watching the feeds. So anyway, it's going to be a smaller press room this year, so I got a ticket to the show, and that's going to be fun. By the way, I've been so apprehensive on what to pick in comedy series. I was watching you earlier, and now I'm 100% confident.
Yeah?
It's Hacks.
Yeah, you were writing to me. We were texting yesterday, and you were the first one who said to me, "Look, I have a feeling that this is
hardly anybody predicting it on editors, experts, other websites. If you ever go to those,
No.
hardly anybody."
Yeah, well, I've switched. Luca is on the Hacks train. Denton and David are still with Abbott Elementary. I think it's probably between those two, actually.
I think I'm switching too, actually. You know, which kind of ties into our current topic. I'm predicting Hannah Einbinder, so I have it winning two acting prizes tonight. It won Guest Actress last weekend, and I think even though I'm not predicting it for writing or directing again this year, I think those are easily in second place for both writing and directing. I think I think Abbott is going to have a little bit more momentum to win writing, but there's no question in my mind that Hacks is second place in writing. You know, so with all those factors in place, I think I might as well switch too.
Makes sense.
I've got Hacks in writing now too, because it hit me. This is why I switched to series. I thought, if it's going to win for Gene Smart, and I've got Hannah winning, and then I thought, it's only writers voting for writing. Now, unlike the Oscars, where everybody votes for winners in every branch, I just thought, it's about comedy writing. Why wouldn't they vote for it again? They voted for it last year.
Oof.
Well, anyway,
you're not really helping. You're not,
in an hour or so.
Yeah, you're really not helping, Chris. You actually just made it worse. So thanks for that. So you're in the like where the bar is, just before you get into the main auditorium.
I don't drink, so I'll have a Diet Coke for all of you.
Oh, okay. I was going to say if you could just have a champagne for me, but I know you won't do that. So look,
I'm gonna cut out. See ya.
Okay. All right. See you later. Good on him. I hope he has the best time of his life. David, where are you at on? Are you going with Einbinder as well? She's a co-lead in that show. It makes sense to me that she should finally win an Emmy.
And you know what, too? She had a really great second season. I mean, the first 2 episodes are all about, Ava's secret, about the email, waiting for Deborah to find out. And they're very funny, but a very emotional scene in that second episode in the diner, which is so great. And then the season finale is another terrific episode for her. I know she didn't submit either of them. She submitted the cruise ship episode, which was also really good. But she just had so many standout moments this season. We could definitely say the same about Janelle James. But as people have been saying, Denton and Luca, I would vote for Cheryl too. I mean, of the Abbott cast, she gives my favorite performance. I would definitely vote for Cheryl, which gives me real pause about predicting Janelle, because, there's 3 of the 4 of us who would vote for Cheryl if we were, filling out our own ballot. So, that gives me pause.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I would definitely be picking Janelle James if I had a vote. Riley, you make a really good point. I know you're behind the scenes, but you're always astute about the creative arts, and Hacks didn't do as well as many of us perceive that it did. It didn't win in casting, cinematography, picture editing, sound mixing, and they were all gettable things that Hacks could have won that it didn't. So let's not get too excited about Hacks, maybe. And let's also remember, I think Denton said it earlier, 7 years in a row, whatever wins casting generally tends to win comedy series, and that's a very good bellwether for Abbott Elementary. That being said, imagine by the end of the night, Only Murders takes it out. Like, who the heck knows these days, right?
Or Barry. I mean, it's
Barry.
crazy to think of how many categories Barry has already won, and we're predicting it to win. And the fact that many of us, I think, have it in like 4th or 5th place.
Yeah.
I think I think the reason is probably that it's a very dark show, and that we're talking about comedy series here, and I do think voters probably take that title very serious or take it seriously.
Yeah.
But I think most of us probably have it in directing, if not all of us. Many of us have Bill Hader. It won a bunch of important creative arts, including editing. So the fact that it might, be in 4th or 5th place for comedy series seems so strange. I wouldn't, it could pull off a surprise, even though I'm not predicting it, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it win either.
Oh yeah.
I know we're going to get kicked off pretty soon and replaced with other talented, wonderful people. So could I ask a question of people here? What of all the categories that we're not going to cover, what is your like furthest way off prediction that's like furthest against the odds?
Good question.
And I'll start with mine is like, and this one I've just been hope dicting for so long that I got to the point where I don't think it's going to happen, but Rob would hear me scream from Australia if it did, and I didn't predict her. So I have Patricia Arquette for Severance because she's won 2 Emmys that we didn't predict her to win. She's just a force. I think she's my favorite actress on TV. So that's my no guts, no glory pick for this year. That'll probably hurt me, but it's too late for me to go back on it.
I'm so glad. You got to plant your flag in the sand.
I need Severance doing. So
you are the Severance guy. You have to be Severance.
I have 2, but I'll start with one that, is absolutely crazy and people will probably just laugh. But I have Caitlin Dever in supporting actress for a limited series. We've gotten this category wrong 5 out of the last 6 times. I feel like that needs to be mentioned first collectively. Jennifer Coolidge is obviously the front runner. She is probably winning like 99%, with a 99% chance. But I've had Caitlin Dever since the beginning of this season, and it's one of those predictions where I'm just not moving off her last minute, even if I end up losing that category. I just feel like we cannot underestimate how much voters love these emotion-laden, showy performances. And that's not to say that Jennifer Coolidge doesn't give that type of performance on The White Lotus, but Caitlin Dever is acting with a capital A on Dopesick, a show that still has 6 acting nominations. I mean, obviously The White Lotus has more. It has 8, which is significant, but Dopesick still has 6. People love that show. If people don't want to vote for The White Lotus in that category, they have one way to go, which is Dopesick, because you have Caitlin Dever and Mare Winningham. And what I think needs to be mentioned is that I think, Mare Winningham is obviously an Emmy favorite, past winner. So people obviously love her. But she also played Caitlin Dever's mother on the show. And I think that's, in my view, part of the reason why she got in, because I think people were very much taken by that storyline. So yeah, I'm going to put it out there. It's a crazy prediction. Jennifer Coolidge is most likely winning, but I'm just sticking with Caitlin Dever until the end.
Okay. And David, final word.
Not much of a limb on this one, but one that people probably will think is very foolish, which is Matthew McFadden for Succession. I had him since the very beginning of the Prediction Center opening. To me, of the Succession actors in that category, he gives the best performance in the 3rd season. Better than Kieran. Sorry, Kieran, love you. But better than Roman. I mean, the emotional arc of Tom, potentially going to jail, the way that kind of weighs on the character. And then so many of his scenes opposite Sarah Snook are so great. Sarah, I don't think is winning. I'm not predicting her this year. But I think if you are voting for Sarah, even though she's going to lose, if you're a Succession fan and you're voting for Sarah Snook, I feel like you're probably going to vote for, or I would anyway, vote for Matthew McFadden. So that's my kind of, strangest choice, just because he's not going to win. But I don't think I'm going to ditch him at this point either, Luca. It's too, it would be a shame. So I'll stick with him.
How exciting. Okay, that's good to know, guys. Look, unfortunately, we've run out of time, and I'm going to bid you adieu. Please enjoy the night. See you after the show. And thank you so much for your contributions.
Take care.
Bye.
Have fun, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Get.
Now, look who we have now. Tom O'Brien, I think you're dialing in from Palm Springs. Is that correct?
I am indeed.
Yeah, so you must have the aircon pumping. Good on you for that. Marcus James Dixon, one of my favorite people on earth, and you look so dapper today. Thank you for joining us. And Charlie Bright, future Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. Thank you so much once again.
Can I just say, if Hacks does win comedy series, I'm going to be so pissed because I originally had it for the longest time and then I took it out. And so if it does win, I mean, it's a fantastic season, but I will be royally pissed if it wins.
There's still time. You can still switch.
I am not doing it. I am not doing that shit. I've only made one switch today. One switch.
I've made 3 already. My God. Charlie, can you do me a favor though, and don't throw anything at the TV.
Just me we're talking about. No promises.
All right. Well, let's stick on comedy series because then after that, I would really like to talk to you guys about the limited variety and all those other little categories at the end because we really do need to cover them. They're important. But comedy series is what I'd like to hear about because nobody knows what the hell is going on. Marcus, tell me, just knock some sense in me because I know what you're picking and I don't really understand why.
Well, I will start by saying a lot of people are going to get this category wrong. So I'm going into the ceremony saying, maybe I'll get it right, maybe I'll get it wrong. Abbott Elementary won casting last week, and that's when I realized that there was more support for the show than I thought there was. I mean, yeah, it missed directing, yeah, it missed editing. Who cares? It got 4 actors nominated. It got the casting nomination, and then it got the casting win. For all those reasons, I am predicting Abbott Elementary. I moved Ted Lasso down to 2nd. I've had Ted Lasso at number 1 for a while. They love repeating at the Emmys. But I'm just wondering what you guys mentioned earlier. It has been a year since Ted Lasso was on the air. You know how many people voted for it last time because it was airing those second season episodes during voting. I wonder if that helped it last year. I wonder if that will, hurt it this year by not doing that. And then I have Hacks in third place. I have Only Murders in 4th. I have Barry in 5th. I think any of those 5 shows could win. Maybe Barry, has a lesser chance because it is very dark. It is in the wrong category. It should be best drama series.
Oh, give me a break.
But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, I like your reasoning, Marcus. I think if Abbott Elementary does take this out tonight, a lot of us will be pointing to that best casting, that trend hasn't been broken for 7 years, and that's something. That's absolutely something. It's weird, but it's something. Tom, before we get to Charlie, because I'm scared he's going to throw something at me. And by the way, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, I'll never forget. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen is when Margot Martindale won, I think, her 2nd Emmy or 3rd Emmy for a 3-second performance. Charlie was just so beside himself.
It was the 2016 Creative Arts. It's still up on YouTube. You can go watch it. So
it's the best.
Yeah.
It should win an Emmy.
Let's go to Tom.
Yes, Tom. All right, Tom, what do you think about comedy series? It's really difficult, and we're all probably going to get this wrong.
Completely. Me above all. I mean, Abbott, you have to remember it only has 7 nominations. It has very little below-the-line support, and those below-the-line voters vote for series. That being said, casting is huge, and I think Abbott has something that isn't quite as pronounced with the other competitors, and that's passion.
Mm-hmm.
The people who like Abbott adore it. And I think that, and this may be an X factor, everybody knows a teacher. Everybody's had a teacher. A lot of us have teachers in our lives. My mom was a teacher. My sister's a teacher. I've heard these stories all my life, and I've rarely seen the educational system done as well as in Abbott Elementary. And I think it's something that a lot of voters will relate to, particularly since so many of the major competitors, Hacks and Only Murders, are in a showbiz world, which they know. But I think deep down inside, there's still that love of teachers in elementary school that may be enough to get this, small number of nominations into wins. I'm predicting 3 wins tonight for Abbott Elementary.
So does that mean you're predicting writing and supporting actress? Is that
or Janelle
right?
James? Yeah.
Okay, good to know. I'd love that to happen. As I said earlier, I just, you know how you said, before we go to you, Charlie, Tom, how you said we all had teachers in our lives. We all know a teacher. My wife's a teacher. I get it. But we also have all worked with someone like Janelle James's character, like completely incompetent, not self-aware, and
I'm right here. Wait for me to leave.
I'm sorry, Marcus. I didn't mean to be rude. I forgot you were there. Sorry. But it's so true. And every time she comes on the screen, I am just laughing because I just think, yep, there she is. We all know that person. Charlie, I didn't think you're predicting Abbott, are you?
I'm sticking with Ted Lasso, but I will say Tom's argument for Abbott is probably the best argument I've heard for Abbott in the past several days. I'm sticking with Ted Lasso, though, because it's sort of like to get at what Tom said earlier, it wasn't able to get into some of those lower, those below the line categories where I thought, it could get in, and it felt like it could have the same sort of trajectory that Arrested Development had in its first season. But I do think that while last year the fact that the new Ted Lasso episodes were airing at the time, I don't think that necessarily hurts it that they're not airing right now, because I think if you watched it back then, my guess is that you probably really enjoyed it because the second season was extremely well received. And I think that there's still a lot of passion there. I know there's a lot of people that are eagerly awaiting season 3. We can't stand it whenever we see the Apple TV ads on Twitter that are plugging its Emmy nominations. And we're like, no, give us the 3rd season. And so I think I still think, and the fact that it got the most nominations of any comedy series this year. So I'm sticking with Ted Lasso. I have Abbott in second. In third, I have Barry, because a lot of people are predicting, including me, that Hader will win actor. A lot of people, not me, are predicting that Hader will win directing, and there's a very strong chance Henry Winkler could win supporting actor. It wins those 3. Series is not that far a stretch.
A stretch, yeah.
I also want to add, Abbott Elementary is the huggable one. It's the one that you want to hug these characters. Maybe not Janelle's character, but everyone else. And also, it's the funniest nominee. This is a comedy category, and I kind of talked crap about Barry, but a lot of these are dramedies. They're not laugh out loud comedies like Abbott is. And Chris Beecham just messaged me. He said, we all switched to Stranger Things after it won casting. Wrong, 2 exclamation points.
Because remember, Stranger Things, one of the things about that and the thing that has in common with Abbott Elementary, a lot of kids being cast who stand out in specific roles.
I recall some of you telling me Stranger Things and my choice of Handmaid's Tale was stupid, and I'm glad I stuck with that one. That's the only time I've ever been right. So we'll see. You know what, guys, though? We really do have to move on because there's lots of other categories tonight, and some of us are feeling really smug about the limited series categories. Like, yeah, whatever. It's just just going to be a shoe-in for White Lotus. I'm kind of one of those, as I think it's going to win limited series, both supportings, writing and directing. That's where I'm at. I'm just leaving it at that, and then we'll talk about the 2 lead the 2 lead acting categories in a second. Charlie, we did a slugfest about a week ago where you very astutely reminded me that I shouldn't be so confident that White Lotus is just going to steamroll past everything, especially Dope Sick. Are you still on that page?
I am bending like I have no backbone on this, and I did switch in limited series. I did switch to the White Lotus. It's not like insanely strong, but winning 5 at the Creative Arts made me more secure in predicting Mike White to win the directing award. And I was the one category switch I made today was in writing for limited series. I did switch from Dope Sick to The White Lotus. So I'm actually predicting the same wins as you on that one.
Okay, well that's interesting. It's good to know because we're
going down on this ship together.
We're going down on this ship together, man. Whether you like it or not, but you did make some good points last week about Dope Sick, and I'm sure you still believe that it's a possibility because it's more. It seems like a show the Emmys usually gravitate towards. It's got gravitas. It's well made. It's got lots of nominations.
It's got that air of importance to it.
Yeah.
So it does make total sense. It's just I just feel like especially like we saw within the supporting actress race, how because in the nomination phase they can vote for however many they want, and so everybody was just checking off everything from The White Lotus. I think that may be a sound way to predict who's going to win in this one.
Yeah, it just seems White Lotus has a lot of passion, and it seems very zeitgeisty. Like, just people really love it. I'm one of those people. Marcus, I'm pretty sure you're on the White Lotus train as well, but can you talk me through whether you think it's going to steamroll like I think it will and Charlie now agrees?
I think it will. I mean, 2 years in a row, we've seen sweeps at the primetime ceremony where a show won every category it was up for. This year, that will be The White Lotus. 2 years ago, it was Schitt's Creek. Last year, it was The Crown. The White Lotus is up for 5 categories. It's not up for the leads, but it's up for series, supporting actor, supporting actress, writing and directing. And I think, unless you have a really good reason, like Luca had a good reason not to predict Jennifer Coolidge, but unless you have a really good reason, I think you're kind of a crazy person to not go with White Lotus in all 5 categories.
Wow. Okay. I'm feeling a bit more confident now. So Tom, are you a crazy person? I mean, I know you're a little crazy, but are you a crazy person tonight, or are you going with the White Lotus steamroll?
Well, what I'm doing right now is pulling a chair up on the deck of the ship that we'll all be going down on together.
Good.
There is an argument for Dope Sick, and certainly when Keaton wins actor, that will come to the fore. The Academy does like to reward things that make TV look responsible, and I think that Dope Sick more than fills that bill. Emmy voters, though, do like to reward shows about white people behaving badly. And so
that was the White Lotus's original name. Did you that title?
I think so. And this more than fills the bill there. So I'm thinking it wins all 5.
It feels like a lies.
Let's pull up those chairs on the deck. I'll have a margarita. I don't know what your favorite drink is, I think that's going to happen. Let's continue on with Michael Keaton. I pretty much think everybody's predicting him. He seems like the safe bet. He won the SAG. It's where they'll reward Dope Sick. Does anyone not agree that Michael Keaton has that one in the bag? Crickets.
I'm not willing to say anything is in the bag at the Emmys, but I'm willing to say it's as close to a lock as you can get.
Yeah.
He also deserves it. I mean, this performance was one of the best he's ever given, TV or film.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I know he's not going to win, but I do want to do a shout out to Andrew Garfield. Yep, under the banner, Madness. It really was very, very great performance for Under the Banner of Heaven.
Yeah, well, I think Himesh Patel in Station 11 was just so incredible. I can't believe he was nominated because he's not a well-known, big celebrity, and no one else from the Station 11, which was to me one of the greatest things ever made. So I'm really glad he was nominated. And Oscar Isaac in Scenes from Marriage. I wish it was for his performance in Moon Knight. But,
yes.
Really category. Beautiful category. Sebastian Stan as well, Colin Firth. Moving over to movie limited actress. This one's a little tougher because you've got Julia Garner, Sarah Paulson, Margaret Qualley, Toni Collette, all huge names. Most of them are Emmy winners. except for Margaret Qualley, obviously, because she's a nominee from a previous nominee. And then you got Lily James and Pam and Tommy and Amanda Seyfried from The Dropout. And I feel like they're kind of splitting. Most people are going with either one of those. I'm going with Amanda Seyfried. I feel like this is where they'll reward The Dropout. I just don't know if Pam and Tommy is going to be able to overcome that The Dropout seems a bit more like a classier kind of snob appeal type show. That's just where I'm at. But I mean, I've heard the arguments for Lily James, and I totally agree that she gives such a transformative performance. By the way, I also believe that Amanda Seyfried also gives a very transformative performance. So, Marcus, where are you at on lead actress? That's a tricky one.
Yeah, this is not an easy category. And earlier, Denton asked everyone, what's one category where you're kind of going against the odds? This is one for me where I'm going with Lily James. And, she is playing a real character, which they love. But a lot of these ladies are playing. Are all of them playing real people? I believe they are.
It's Maid. Is she real?
Yes. So there goes that argument. But Lily James is putting on the performance. Like, she is nothing like Pamela Anderson. And it was just a performance you couldn't look away from. And so over the top. The Emmys really love, if there's an over the top person versus a more subdued, subtle person, it's almost always the over the top one that wins. And Amanda's character is more, quiet. And, but don't forget, Julia Garner is an Emmy favorite. She's 2 for 2. 2 for Ozark, she's won. She's up for 2 more tonight. So she could, realistically, she could leave the night with 2 more Emmys or with 0 more Emmys. But don't count her out. And
Venting Anna is a nominee in limited series as well, a nominated series, which was a little bit of a surprise. Don't.
And last week, Pam and Tommy won an Emmy last week at the Creative Arts. The Dropout didn't. So that kind of tells me. Actually, I believe of these 6 nominees for Limited Actress, the only one. Okay, no, Pam and Tommy won a Creative Arts Emmy, and Impeachment won a Creative Arts Emmy.
Yes, that's right. And speaking of impeachment, I feel like you've just breached your clause that you had that contract with Sarah Paulson. You're allowed to say she's not going to win, so you'll probably be getting a call from her people later.
Her nomination.
I'm her new favorite person.
Her nomination was very well deserved. I'm so happy she is on this list.
Me too.
Yeah.
She was amazing in that.
Yeah.
I loved that show. I thought that show was so underrated in terms of what it got at the Emmys, in terms of nominations. Beanie Feldstein was also so good in that. Again, it's an embarrassment of riches when you've got to try to land 5 nominees in this category and the lead acting category as well, the actor category as well, because there's just so many great performances. So, Charlie, where are you at in actress? It's difficult.
So I actually finally watched The Dropout earlier last week, and I had Lily James for the longest time, and I'm thinking to myself, should I switch to Amanda Seyfried? And it was a lot. There was a lot of back and forth in my mind, devil and an angel on none other devil on either side of me. But I am going to stick with Lily James on this. One of the things about that is that Amanda Seyfried is really good in The Dropout, but she plays someone who is doing something that is so inherently evil in what she's doing with her company, and it's something that you find yourself drawn to. But as opposed to Lily James takes a character that a lot of people probably wouldn't have given a second thought about and made it compelling and made her incredibly sympathetic in a way that I think that surprised a lot of us. And the fact that the program's able to back it up with all these nominations, including other actors like Sebastian Stan and Seth Rogen, it got into limited series. I believe it won 2 at the Creative Arts last weekend. I really think that Lily James is going to take.
Fascinating. It's so interesting. If she wins, I'll be thrilled for her because she was just incredible in that. Really, really disappeared and became Pam Anderson. Okay, so let's move on to some of the other categories. it feels like the two variety categories are generally, they always seem to go to Saturday Night Live and John Oliver. And to be honest, I'm really bored about that. I just find it so boring. I wish they would just mix it up a little bit. And in fact, if they did mix it up, I probably would be like maybe saying, give it to Black Lady Sketch Show, which did win, I think 2 or 3 last week. I think 3. And, give it to Colbert or Jimmy Kimmel Live or something, but that's not going to happen. I just think Saturday Night Live will take it out, and so will John Oliver. Charlie, do you agree? Oh, and by the way, Tom, I don't think I came to you for the actress, but I will in a second. Sorry, my bad. Charlie, what do you think about those two before I ask Tom?
After Black Lady Sketch Show won directing and editing at the Creative Arts, I've been beside myself trying to decide which one to go with. I am going to stick with Saturday Night Live, though I acknowledge I could very well be wrong about that. And for the other, John Oliver, I think what he does, there's nothing like what his program does, and I love that. I love what they do, and as long as they do it at the quality they're at, I'm happy to let them keep winning.
Fair enough. Back to you, Tom. Talk me through your rationale for lead actress in a limited series, because I'm still not sure what the hell to do.
No, and I'm in the same kind of indecisive mode. It's like back and forth, back and forth. I think Charlie makes some excellent points about the transformational nature of Lily James's performance. As we've seen recently in the Oscars, if you transform yourself to look like the person you're portraying, and especially if you look nothing like them in real life, that seems to be catnip for voters. And the fact that Lily James does that so well and brings a sense of, I want to call playfulness to what could have been a very sordid miniseries, that really kind of appealed to me very much. I would be thrilled if she won. I'm sticking with Seyfried because Seyfried is doing things, Seyfried's character is doing things so evil that you might be turned off by it, but there's something in her performance that compels me to watch. And if I can't approve of what she's doing, she made it very clear that I can understand why she's doing what she's doing. So I'm completely torn between the two of them. Lily James would thrill me, but I'm predicting Seyfried right now.
Okay, good. You're making me feel a bit better now, because you make some good points there. I'm just going to stick with Seyfried. Who cares? It's one or the other. And that's a shame, because when I saw Maid and I saw Margaret Qualley give that performance, at the time, I thought she's going to win the Emmy for sure. Then the Emmy voters decided not to really support Maid as much as they could have, and it upended the whole contest. So sticking with you, Tom, the variety categories, are you with the consensus on those?
Boy, I don't think anybody, any of the rivals to John Oliver have had a moment the way it would be necessary to bring him down. I think Jimmy Kimmel had a few, and I think I've been drawn most to his very honest monologues over the course of the last year, between his talk on Trump and on the pandemic and how Trump handled it. But I think that John Oliver is still the default prediction on that one. Saturday Night Live, it's funny because I found myself a couple of times this season saying, the writing's really good this year. It's really stepped up. I think they have a new group of writers. At the same time, this category needs some fresh blood, and Black Lady Sketch Show is so good. If the improvement in writing at SNL hadn't happened, I would go with Black Lady Sketch Show, but I'm sticking with SNL for now.
And what about you, Marcus? Are you thinking that this could be the time that SNL finally doesn't win?
Yeah, I think this is the most exciting race for the sketch category we've had in a long time. And, it just occurred to me, Black Lady Sketch Show, Last Week Tonight, Succession, Hacks, The White Lotus. HBO could win every series race tonight, except for a competition program, which we'll talk about in a second. But But yeah, I've had Black Lady Sketch Show winning since the Prediction Center opened. SNL did so poorly in nominations compared to what it's been doing. And then when Black Lady Sketch Show won, directing and editing back to back at the Creative Arts, I'm like, okay, I think I'm right here to stick with that. I could be wrong, and that's fine. But you know, if something were to beat SNL, Black Lady Sketch Show was in the prime opportunity. It needed to win something big last week, and it did.
Yeah, not only did it win something big, it won something big a few times. So you're right. If any show's going to do it, I think it's this one and in this year. We'll see. I'm not predicting it will happen because it's really going to be, it's 50-50 literally. And so Saturday Night Live, I think will just get just enough support for it to push it over the line. We'll see. Competition program is a different story. Normally we just say, RuPaul, let's move on. I don't think that's the case this time. I'm sticking with you, Marcus. Is RuPaul's Drag Race going to Shantae, you stay, or will it sashay away?
A great question. I think it's weaker this year than it has been recently because Lizzo came on strong last week as well. Lizzo's watch out for the big girls, but I mean, I don't have a reason to switch away from RuPaul's Drag Race. And, you know, RuPaul himself has 12 Emmys. If he wins this one tonight as a producer, that'll be 13. That's huge. I love that.
Yeah, he's huge. Charlie, what about you?
I'm sticking with RuPaul's Drag Race. I was worried last week with when it kept losing at the Creative Arts, but the fact that he was still able to rebound and win host makes me feel pretty secure in this.
Yeah, I felt like I haven't seen every season of the show, but I felt like season 14 was a really strong one for it, and with Willow Pill winning, and it just had a lot of drama, and it was very well written and well executed, and I just can't see why it would possibly lose. I just don't see a reason.
The All Winners season, the All-Star season, was airing during voting, and I know it's completely, you know, it's a spin-off show, but it's the same show basically. And you know, that has to help.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because, that All-Star 7 show was, I think, arguably the best RuPaul season of any of its shows.
Totally agree.
And because both season 14, which we are voting on, and the All-Star season, there's such a sense of camaraderie in it. There was much less bitchery. It wasn't nearly as negative as some of the seasons have been in terms of contestants going after each other. There was a sisterhood there in both of those seasons. And Marcus makes a great point. It's going on during voting. And I think this is going to be a continuation for Drag Race.
Yeah. I totally. I just think it's such a great show, and I think it will win, definitely. So look, we've got a little bit more time before round 3 begins on this marathon pre-show, and I would like to ask you all for that one category. We did that in the last round. That one category that you're going out on a limb, or something that you just really feel passionate about that you perhaps maybe not many people are predicting. Marcus, I'd like you to go first.
Well, thank you, Rob. I'm very excited to see you next week. We will have.
I can't wait.
We will have plenty of fun.
Make sure
will be had, and Charlie as well.
And Charlie, yeah, hydrate. Go on.
So okay, there's 25 categories tonight, and I'm going with the odds on most of them, and I'm going with second place on some of them. But there's only one category where I'm going down to third place to predict who I think will win, and that is drama supporting actress for Jung Ho Yeon, Squid Game. And I switched to her after the Creative Arts when I saw Lee Yu-mi win. I needed to see it happen, where somebody that the voters didn't even know existed a year ago could win an Emmy. And it did happen, so I switched to Jung Ho Yeon, and I switched to the lead actor as well, Lee Jung Jae. So I guess that's the one upset I'm looking to call. I think she should be higher. I'm a little shocked that she is in third place in our odds, but that's the one.
Well, there you go. You know, I never thought about that, but I could probably check to see where my predictions are compared to the consensus and whether I'm going with 1 or 2s. I might just do that anyway, or I might just copy yours. Every year I always think I just should copy that guy or copy Joyce or copy something. I never do because I just feel like, no, just figure it out yourself. But I'm going with Jung Ho Yeon. I think that's happening, and same with Lee Jung Jae. So I agree with you. I think that's again, we're going to be doing drama soon, so I'll keep my mouth shut for now. Tom, what's your No Guts, No Glory?
Well, I don't think that in the supporting actor for drama race, either of the Succession guys will be beat. I currently predicting Kieran, but my heart would leap if John Turturro won for Severance. I adore him as an actor, and I've never seen him do something like this before. And to be able to do it in a series and just grow this shy man into a character who's finally embracing who he is and stepping up to do something about it just broke my heart every single episode. And it may not be the kind of big brassy performances that wins Emmys, but if there was any justice, I would like to see that man hold an Emmy tonight for that wonderful performance in that great series.
Oh my God, me too. God, you got away with words, Tom, because that's just making me feel slightly emotional. If that happens, I really do need to get out more. Charlie, what about you?
So I'll break this into 2. So the one that I'm hoping for the most here is actually in that same category, drama supporting actor. I am hoping like hell that Oh Young-soo wins for Squid Game. I was so taken by his performance, and it broke my heart. What's left there that's not consumed by cholesterol. But, I was so taken by his performance, and I just thought he was so incredible in it. And I mean, also just how amazing would that look to see him get up on that stage? I think that would be that could very well, if it happens, be the highlight of the night. The thing that the No Guts, No Glory prediction I have is, and I actually feel fairly confident in this, is in comedy directing. I'm predicting Only Murders in the Building for The Boy from 6B.
Yeah,
because I feel like that is the decision to do it with that muffled sound. So it's mainly from the perspective of the deaf character. I thought was incredible, and it was really immensely well put together. So I think that's going to win there.
The Boy from 6B, when I watched that for the first time, I felt like my body my soul left my body, and I was having an out of body. I was so taken by it, and I really was. I sound like a complete idiot, but I just really loved it. I had the pleasure of interviewing John Hoffman, the co-creator, told him offline how much it meant to me. And he said that he hears it all the time. All the time, people just love that episode. And if that happens, wow, how deserving. It has to beat Barry. It has to beat 710 North. We'll see. Yeah. It's a good choice, though. I want to quickly go back to supporting actor in drama. We still have a little bit more time. What Tom said is really, really, it's really stuck with me, because if you look at the list, what I hope for tonight? Please, 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 can we just see some clips? Because that is the highlight for me. I want to see them all. As us awards junkies, we like to see clip, and then the winner is, and the Emmy goes to. Just imagine for a second, you get to see clips of Kieran Culkin, Oh Young-soo, Billy Crudup, John Turturro, Park Hae-soo, Matthew McFadden, Christopher Walken, and Nicholas Braun. I mean, I would just be so excited by that. Oh, here's Chris. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Chris, are you in the auditorium now? Or is that
a few rows from our seats. We're in the section above all the tables. They're doing tables like SAG and the Golden Globes.
Oh, they're doing tables this year.
Yeah. Wow. For the whole bottom section they are.
Oh,
so I'm really dark. I'm sitting in the back row for the moment.
I wonder why they're doing tables this year.
I can turn it around, but I don't. we'll just do that really quickly because I don't know what's legal and what's not. So
it should be okay. Oh,
Ooh,
Very nice.
look at that.
I wonder why they decided to go that way.
it's like we're at a Hawaiian tiki party or something with all the little lanterns on the tables.
Very White Lotusy.
Yeah, I was gonna say that helps White Lotus's chances.
You should have worn a really nice flowy shirt, Chris, with palm trees on it. But next time, to say it.
I'm sorry it's so dark. I won't stay long. I don't want to distract. But everybody else switch over to hacks to be right.
No.
I'm staying with Abbott Elementary.
After listening to Tom and Marcus talking about Abbott, I am now in two minds. So
I'm sticking with Ted Lasso.
What, 20
Too many
minutes
people
before
are
the
switching.
prediction center shuts down. So I will say, remember that year we all switched to Stranger Things for drama series
I didn't.
after one casting.
I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I hear you. That was a very stupid choice, all of you. You're all dumb.
Which is why I'm not going with Abbott. And too many people are saying they're switching to hacks. And I'm like, no, I'm holding out. Holding out.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
A
I'm
lot
sure
of
you're all
people-
doing a good job. We're going to the governor's ball afterwards, so I'll try to check in from there.
Ooh,
So exciting.
Fun.
So exciting. You're going to have the best time. The Governor's Ball is amazing.
congrats, kid.
Oh,
All
Rob,
right, have fun. You know what, guys? I feel like we might cut it there, if that's okay, and move on to round 3 so that we have a few minutes before the show at the end of this marathon for people to just, take a moment, go to the bathroom, have their coffee.
Could I ask one really quick question to
Yes.
everyone? Whose win are you most excited to see? Like whose speech? For me, it's Jennifer Coolidge.
Same.
Yeah, I would say Jennifer Coolidge. If of the ones I'm predicting, if I was predicting Oh Young-soo, I'd say him, or Anthony, or if I was predicting Anthony Kerrigan, I would say him.
Tony, what about you?
Man, if I was predicting Bob Odenkirk, I'd say him, but I chickened out.
I would love.
God,
That would have been a beaut.
Yeah.
It still could be.
Yeah.
And Riley?
Riley, we
think
can't hear
I'm
you.
Maybe Mike White or Jared Carmichael.
Okay.
Jared Carmichael will be really good.
yeah.
I think Mike White will be giving 3 speeches, so you'll get triple your wish.
I'm hoping for I think Murray Bartlett for me, just because, it's in my passport. I have to always go with the Aussie. So, okay. Well, I just I think we're waiting on one more person. So I'm just kind of tap dancing. I'm waiting for Matt. Come on, Matt. Where are you, Matthew?
I'm replacing
All right. I will let you guys go. Thanks again for your contributions. It's been a pleasure. Have a great night.
Thanks. Boy, have fun, guys.
Bye. All right. So while we wait for Matthew,
I'm filling in for Matt.
good. Yeah, I think that's a good sub for now. So thanks guys for joining me. Thanks for joining me, guys. I've got Tony Ruiz dialing in from California and Daniel Montgomery dialing in from New York, and Riley, who is in Senegal right now. And he is our amazing director. He's doing a great job as always. So guys, we haven't talked about the drama categories yet, and we will do so. But before we do, let's just quickly go over the big category of the night that we've all been umming and ahhing about, and that is, of course, comedy series. We've heard some great arguments for Abbott Elementary, some really interesting and compelling arguments for Hacks, even Ted Lasso. I still think Only Murders is not completely out of question, and of course Tony's favorite show of all time, Barry, is absolutely in the mix as well. So Tony, sticking with you, are you still thinking that, what do you think? This is really hard. Just roll the dice.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think anybody who says they know exactly what's going to happen is kidding themselves. I think any one of the top 5 could win. I actually think people have Barry too low, because I think it stands a good chance to win actor and directing and potentially supporting actor. So it could, certainly have the passion to win comedy. I'm going with Abbott. I feel like that's where the momentum is right now, and I feel like the nominations helped people discover that show. And once they discovered it, everybody just completely fell in love with it. And so I think that explains why it possibly didn't get in, maybe for like directing, but I think that's where it's going to be. I also think Tyler James Williams could upset in supporting actor too. So I'm, my heart is always with Barry, but it's, this is not a category that often recognizes dark comedy. So, but I think Abbott is the feel good first year show that they want to embrace.
Yeah, it's a good point. Daniel, I know that you are still holding out for Ted Lasso. I was doing that until about half an hour ago, so I understand where you're probably coming from, but talk us through why you think Ted Lasso will ultimately take this out tonight. Daniel?
Oh, say it again. Sorry, I was having issues with my internet.
Oh, so Ted Lasso, I think you're still predicting Ted Lasso. Are you, what's the reasoning? Talk us through why you're still thinking Ted Lasso will ultimately win tonight.
I'm sort of on it by default, because it lost everything at Creative Arts, but that's not 100% an impediment to winning at the main ceremony. It still got those 20 nominations, and the problem is I don't know. If I were to switch, what would I switch to? Like, I've heard so many good arguments for Abbott Elementary and Hacks and Barry. So it's, it's almost like I don't know what limb to go out on, if it is even a limb. So I'm sort of hedging my bets, because I'm going against Ted Lasso in many other categories.
Yeah, same. That was the reason why I ultimately decided to take it out. I can't believe we could get to the end of tonight and Ted Lasso will have won nothing. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And that, I mean, a lot of people are predicting Brett Goldstein or Hannah Waddingham, and so, okay, fine, but I'm not. And so it could just walk away with nothing, and Apple TV Plus would be so disappointed by that. So we'll see what happens.
Precedent, like we saw it happen just last year, where Handmaid's Tale had an even worse night. It went 0 for 21, and this would just be 0 for 20. It wouldn't wouldn't be quite as bad.
No big deal. But yeah, and has all that acting support, and yet walks away with a big goose egg. So that's absolutely possible. I still am not sure what's going on with Matt, but that's okay, because we've got Riley, and that's totally fine. It's like in the middle of the night over there in Africa.
Matt's not coming. Matt's not coming.
Oh, he's not coming. Oh, I didn't hear that.
That's what Riley told me.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Okay. So let's talk about... Oh, Riley, what about you? Well, I don't think I've heard from you yet. So unmute yourself and talk me through what's going to win Comedy Series, because you're usually right.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, Abbott Elementary definitely has the passion, and in the last several years in comedy, I feel like that is what wins. But I also feel like we've seen contenders like Atlanta or Transparent have kind of this small tally of nominations, and it's just not quite enough to demonstrate broad support. I think we've seen it on the drama side a little bit with The Americans, where they can appeal to the above-the-line branches, but they're just really left out in the cold by the below-the-line branches, and they can't take down like the Titan. Ted Lasso is really weak. I look at the years that Game of Thrones won drama series, and some years it was stronger than other years. And especially in the later years, you would get Killing Eve would win something, and Ozark would win something, and The Americans would win something, The Crown would win something. It seems like Ted Lasso is not going to sweep. It seems like I don't think anything's going to sweep. So I think we'll get kind of a mix of winners. Hacks, I was quite disappointed by at the Creative Arts, because I think it had a real opportunity to step up if Ted Lasso is so weak, given that it has all the nominations, given that it's kind of in their wheelhouse. It's kind of a successor to Veep, I would think. But it couldn't win editing. It couldn't win casting, sound mixing. cinematography. I feel like all these were very gettable that could have demonstrated broad support. I don't put any stock into the guest acting win because guest acting often goes to standout guest performances, like Courtney B. Vance last year or Cat Williams on Atlanta, and it doesn't actually mean anything about how strong the series is overall.
Okay, that's really unhelpful. So thank you. We've got to talk about drama. Normally, drama series and all the drama categories is where all the drama is at, part of the fun. That's not the case necessarily this year because I feel that in drama series, most people, or the consensus appears to be that Succession will win again. But are we being a bit too confident, Daniel, about drama series and Succession?
We might be. I think it's solidly out front, but the way Squid Game performed at Creative Arts is interesting. That could be indicative of how strong it'll be tonight, and also that key category of casting, which hasn't correlated quite as perfectly in drama as it has in comedy these last few years. Squid Game wasn't eligible there. So if Squid Game had been nominated, would it have won casting? If it had won casting, would I now be saying Squid Game wins the best drama series? Maybe. So I think it's a 2-horse race. So I'm still on Succession, but Squid Game, I'm predicting those two shows to split pretty much everything tonight.
Yeah, I agree with that, except for I just have this niggling feeling that Severance and Euphoria and even Better Call Saul are kind of just waiting in the wings for a little bit of a surprise. Tony, what do you think about drama series?
I was almost tempted. I was very close to switching to Squid Game for drama series, and I just wasn't brave enough to pull the trigger because I actually have Squid Game winning 3 out of the 4 acting awards and directing. I think that Succession is kind of like the safe bet, but I'm wondering if a safe bet pays off. When you have a show that, like Abbott Elementary, that has passion, and Squid Game clearly has passion. When you have a field this big of this many contenders, sometimes a small but vocal core of passionate support could easily put it over the line. So I'm being a coward and sticking with Succession, but I half expect to be completely wrong about that.
It's tough, isn't it? Because everything that you both just said, I agree with, and it's like I feel like at the SAGs, it's going to be similar. And I'm wondering, Riley, if you agree. Like at the SAG Awards, Lee Jung-jae and Jung Ho-yeon won, but then Succession was able to take out the ensemble prize because it had more broader support. I don't know. Like, what do you think, Riley? Just tell me what to do. I don't know what to do.
I'm worried that we're putting too much stock in that Lee Jung-jae win, actually, because Succession only had 3 actors nominated at SAG, whereas in lead actor here, it's only got 2. And over there weren't as many alternatives either. So those kind of anti-Succession votes had to go somewhere. So I wonder if Succession is definitely winning drama series again. And, we kind of assumed that last time Jeremy Strong was first and Brian Cox was second. It would have to fall quite a bit, I feel, for Jeremy Strong to lose again. But for drama series, Succession, I think, is, like Ted Lasso, really weak. I didn't think it would happen this quickly, but I think we see that with the Emmys these days. We thought that, Jeffrey Tambor would be winning for years, and we thought that Rachel Brosnahan would be winning for years, but the Emmys just move on these days. But again, like in comedy, nothing else really stepped up. What stepped up was Euphoria, which is the one that we kind of predetermined couldn't win because it doesn't have writing and directing. Squid Game, I really would have liked to have seen win editing. Severance, I thought, was also pretty soft in terms of wins. So Succession has 25 nominations. It's, the most acclaimed drama, so it kind of just wins by default. I don't think it's going to be winning very much.
No, I think that's right. I feel like it's a default choice, and yet whenever I hear that, I have to check myself because passion makes a big difference these days, particularly in a field of 8 where you just need like that little core, as it was said earlier. And that's why I also believe Severance is absolutely in the mix here. Absolutely in the mix. And I know it won 2 awards. That was in the music category. So the music branch really went for Severance, whereas it didn't do well anywhere else. And not having Britt Lauer in drama actress, I think, is slightly problematic for it as well. So let's see what happens. It's a really interesting category. If any of these win, by the way, Yellow Jackets, Ozark, Stranger Things, Better Call Saul, Euphoria, Squid Game, Severance, Succession, I'll be thrilled. It's just one of the best lineups in drama series for a very long time. Let's move on to something a little bit more, I guess, predictable. Is drama actress. I think, to me, there's no more of a lock tonight than Zendaya. Even though Laura Linney and Melanie Lynskey are absolutely deserving and could win, I'm even going against the grain saying that I think Jodie Comer and Sandra Oh and Reese Witherspoon are all brilliant, and I'd be totally happy with them winning as well. But I just feel like Zendaya, there's not really much point in us putting too much thought into this. It just feels like Zendaya is going to win Emmy number 2. Tony, you agree?
Oh yeah, I had Zendaya winning since before the nominations came out. I mean, it just seems so obvious that a show that overperformed in many ways is gonna win it for her. And I know that there's all this talk about Linsky. I would believe it more if I had seen Yellow Jackets perform anywhere else. But I just feel like, and I know that repeats, particularly under the new system, are a little bit, it hasn't really happened. But there's always a first time, and I think Zendaya is in the perfect position to win. That episode, again, we're talking about passion. As a high school teacher, one of the things that shocks me is how much this show resonates with people, particularly younger people. They're obsessed with it. And I think that it's part of the zeitgeist in a way that will only, plus she's got probably one of the greatest drama submissions. And I know tapes don't matter, but I mean, come on, that performance, that episode, I don't think there's any chance that she's losing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's it just seems pretty obvious to me. Daniel, are you on the same page?
Sort of. You guys are making me feel better about predicting Zendaya because I keep wanting to like, I had this gut feeling about Melanie Lynskey that she's gonna pull it out. And because it reminds me, like, Zendaya's first win, she beat actors with a lot more support on paper. And Melanie Lynskey's show has more support than Zendaya's did when she won. So it's the cool new performance. It won Critics' Choice. Like, Melanie Lynskey has a lot of rooting factor just individually. She's been in the industry so long. This is one of her first big showcases in terms of an awards player. So my gut tells me Melanie Lynskey is going to somehow manage to win this, but I feel like the logic and it just all says Zendaya. So I'm going with Zendaya. I'm playing it safe, and you guys are making me feel better about playing it safe. But I'm not as confident as you guys are.
That's very
but what I would say is that if Euphoria had not exploded in nominations the way it did this year, I think if it had about the same support, I think it would be a much tighter race. But clearly, voters watched this season. I mean,
but we have seen the explosion thing happen. I remember the first season of Handmaid's Tale, which won drama series. Its second season had far more nominations than its first, and Elizabeth Moss couldn't repeat. So it doesn't necessarily go hand in hand that the explosion means a repeat. I think logically it might, but we've seen them go against that a few times in recent years. So I am wary.
Yeah, it's very unhelpful. So I want to go straight to the supporting categories, as I want to leave lead actor to the end because that's the one giving me the most.
Wait, can I say that I have Zendaya third?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, Riley. My bad.
Okay, so Riley's nuts.
Yeah, so I've got
You have
Zendaya
Zendaya in
third.
third. You're crazy.
I feel like she's not one of those performers like Julia Louis-Dreyfus or Jean Smart that we just expect to keep winning for, years on end. She feels very much to me like one of those kind of flavor of the moments, like Jodie Comer or Billy Porter, that they'll want to acknowledge, Rami Malek.
Or Tatiana Maslany even.
Yeah, but they won't feel a need to keep going back to. So that's kind of why I'm looking for alternatives.
So then, what is your alternative? Who is your alternative?
Yeah, I've got Laura Linney, which is, it's possible that there's just no passion for Ozark, so that's not great. But I still can't make sense of that Olivia Colman win last year, and I feel like she's in that vein, the way that Olivia Colman was over Emma Corrin. I've got Melanie Linsky second.
Yeah, actually, I'm so glad you reminded me. Can we just all remember last year when Emma Corrin lost? There was a lot of gasps and surprise because I recall many of us. I'm not singling anyone out because it was just a general feeling. Oh, Emma Corrin is so much of a shoo-in. She's so amazing as Diana, and I totally agree with that. I thought she was just so good. Like, how could she be denied? And she lost. And The Crown did so well, of course, and Olivia Colman won it anyway, so it was still from the same show. So I hate it when, and I do it all the time. Oh, that's a shoo-in, it's a lock. There's no locks at the Emmys ever. Forget it. Forget it. And Luke is right, even from the beginning of tonight. Jennifer Coolidge could lose. Okay, and we were all expecting her to win, and I want to see her speech, right? So we hope that she's going to win. And Mari Bartlett and Zendaya. So look, I guess that's a lesson. We must always remember at the Emmys that there is no locks. They go their own way, and sometimes it's just so inexplicable. Speaking of drama supporting actor, I've got my predictions open. I still bloody hope it's open because I need to press save and next quickly. I just don't know what to do here. I've had Kieran Culkin for ages. I'm feeling very kind of antsy about it. I just don't know what to do. So, Tony, what are you doing? Because I know you've had some anxiety over some of these drama acting categories as well over the last few hours.
Yeah, I'm going out. I'm sticking with Oh Yeon-soo. When it comes to the Succession guys, I actually feel like if anybody won, it would be McFadden and not Culkin. At the end of season 3 of this season of the Succession, everybody was they were talking about Tom. Everything was about Tom. And it made people go back and watch the entire season over again to look for hints because of what Tom did. So it was McFadden who was kind of like the centerpiece. And where Culkin is definitely kind of like this, the standout character, everybody, it's the character everybody kind of recognizes and knows. Those two factors, I think, could split those two. Because I think the core fans of Succession, I think they're going to be kind of thinking about McFadden, whereas maybe the more casual voter is going with Kieran. And that's why I am sticking with Oh Yeon-soo. I think he'll be the benefit of that vote split.
Yeah, I've just flicked to Oh Yeon-soo. That's it. I've just locked it in. Everyone, I think you only have a few more minutes until the Predicting Center is closed.
Yeah,
so
I believe 6 minutes.
6 minutes. So if you've got any changes, now's the time. While you're making those changes, Daniel, drama supporting actor.
I'm going Kieran Culkin, and I'm not super passionate or confident about it. I feel like this category, like I do about comedy supporting actor, where I'm predicting Brett Goldstein sort of by default. In this case, it feels like Kieran Culkin, he got that SAG nomination in a group of leads, along with the 2 leads from Succession, and Matthew McFadden didn't. So that's really the only thing in my mind that's putting Culkin ahead of McFadden. I have McFadden in second, and I have Oh Yeon-soo in third. I definitely do think there's a risk of a vote split, and Oh Young-soo, while he's also up against the co-star, I don't think they'll split quite the same way. So I do think it's one of those three, but yeah, I'm going Culkin.
And Riley?
I think we sometimes see these supporting actor awards just go to the veteran, and I wanted to spread the wealth around and give Severance something, so I've got John Turturro. I thought that Kieran Culkin would be a stronger favorite coming out of this season, but yeah, it does seem like people have kind of gone back and evaluated the show overall, maybe because it's been off the air for so long. Matthew McFadden won the BAFTA, so I feel like that also hurt Kieran Culkin's narrative. It could be Oh Young-soo.
Yeah. You know, I was having a chat with Chris the other day, Chris Beecham, who's currently in the auditorium, and he said something similar to what Daniel just said about how Oh Young-soo and Park Hae-soo probably won't split the vote. And I agree. That's, you know, Oh Young-soo is absolutely the more known contender. But I do also think if you want to have a counter argument to make it even more confusing, is Park Hae-soo is a really popular actor, and his character is also quite a fan favorite. I know, for example, me being a Squid Game nutter, thought his character was probably the most compelling. He gives a very, very over-the-top performance, particularly in the final episode. So maybe there could be a bit of vote splitting there too. And I think there's so much splitting in this category because of Severance having 2 and Succession having 3 and Squid Game having 2 that maybe even Billy Crudup could win again. And he has won before, right? So we can't completely discount him. He hasn't lost. He's just a winner. He's a winner, baby. So put that aside. Let's move on.
Winning once doesn't mean you haven't lost. That just means you won once.
It technically means you haven't lost.
You haven't lost. So let's move on to supporting actress. That's really tough as well. Denton earlier said he's going with Patricia Arquette. I'm going with Jung Ho-yeon. I did have Julia Garner in there for ages, but I've decided to just go out on a limb for Ho-yeon. I think she will win just like Lee Yu-mi won last week. But then you've got Sydney Sweeney, Sarah Snook, J. Smith Cameron, Rhea Seehorn finally, and Christina Ricci. What a category. My God, it blows my mind. Tony, who are you going for?
Yeah, I'm going with Jung Ho-yeon. I had Garner for the longest time because I just refuse to believe that she's capable of losing. But after guest actress last week, I switched over to Jung Ho-yeon. I just think Squid Game is going to go on a roll here, and I think that, you know, her winning the SAG for supporting performance, I was like, wow, okay, yeah,
that's a huge factor. When she won that SAG, wow.
But I actually have Rhea Seehorn in third. I think Rhea Seehorn could actually win.
She's finally nominated, right? And she's never had a chance. This could be it, although she has a chance next year, but she just needed to get into the mix. And I've been thinking this for a while too. Like, the actors will look at this and say, okay, finally I get to vote for her. And she is so damn good in Better Call Saul. So who knows? Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going Jung Ho-yeon. I had, exactly like Tony, I had Julia Garner for the longest time, but it feels like if we're talking about passion, then I don't know that Ozark has it anymore, even though Julia Garner had her kind of most standout emotional showcase kind of year in terms of her performance. Like if they're done with the show, they're done with the show, although it did get plenty of nominations, so maybe they're not done with the show. But Lee Yu-mi winning, again, that was sort of the proof of concept for me, where it's like, okay, are these actors who are not as well known to the American TV Academy, who are giving these performances entirely in Korean, the Korean language, is this going to win the acting awards? And Lee Yu-mi proved that, yes, it can. And all those other awards for Squid Game Creative Arts said, oh, it can win lots more than that too. So that convinced me to go Jung Ho-yeon, in addition to that SAG win, where she beat Sarah Snook, even though Sarah Snook didn't have a co-star up against her like she has here. So yeah, Jung Ho-yeon. But again, I'd say that top three is really close.
Yeah, Riley, I don't know what to do here. What about you?
Yeah, I've got Julia Garner. I had her for the longest time under kind of Peter Dinklage lines where she's won multiple times. Now she's having a great final season. But it's just so hard to tell if anybody cares about Ozark anymore with its final season. We see it, I feel like, a lot lately with shows like Veep or Silicon Valley or This Is Us this year, where the show ends and then just nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's like the end of the Truman Show.
Yeah. Yeah. Look. Okay. Before we move on to drama actor, we were kind of running out of time. Directing and writing. I'm going with Succession directing. I just switched over from Severance, and in writing, I'm going for Squid Game. What about you, Tony?
I'm doing the opposite. I'm going Squid Game for directing and Succession for writing.
Oh, sorry. Actually, my bad. Yes, what you just said is what I'm doing. Sorry. Daniel?
Yeah, I think Succession for writing and Squid Game for directing, though I'd say even with those 3 Succession episodes splitting the vote, like this show got all of the DGA nominations for directing. So like there seems to be passion from directors in the industry for that show. So it could potentially overcome a vote split, but I'm going with Squid Game.
Yeah, and Riley?
What happened to Andrei Perek? You know, he won for the last season of Succession. He got the DGA nomination, and now he's snubbed. It's so random.
Crazy.
Yeah, I've got Squid Game because I think there's it's a bit more obviously directed, more colorful, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I just, when they see red light, green light, I think that will just make them want to vote for director Huang. Although I'd love to see Lorene Scafaria win for Too Much Birthday. That episode of Succession was completely wild. The big party episode. What an achievement for her. I'd just like her to win anyway, so she can shout out to her partner, Bo Burnham. Okay, so then drama actor is a killer. I think that is the actor, the category of the night, because Jeremy Strong, Bob Odenkirk, Brian Cox, Jason Bateman, Adam Scott, Lee Jung-jae. I think you can make an argument for any of those 6 actors. And I know, for example, that James Dixon is predicting Bob Odenkirk. And I
think he switched.
Oh, he did? Oh, come on, Marcus.
I think so.
Go back. Go back. Okay, Tony, you have been beside yourself over this one, so please tell us.
I did. I sent a frantic text this morning because it still makes my head hurt, because every bit of logic in me is telling me Lee Jung-jae.
Yeah.
And yet, Bob Odenkirk had the performance of his life air during voting, with the final few episodes of Better Call Saul. And, you know, his story has been front and center. You know, the story of his heart attack during the final season has been front and center all through the season. And I feel like there is a argument to be made that Odenkirk, I don't think this will be like Breaking Bad, where a year later, Better Call Saul comes back to win a bunch. I don't think it's going to happen again. And then after Squid Game's performance at Creative Arts, I went to Lee Jung-jae. So I'm sticking with Lee Jung-jae. I'm not, and I'll be thrilled if he wins. I think it's an incredibly deserving win. But I'm going head over heart on this one, even though my heart says that there's a real chance for Odenkirk. But I'm sticking with my guns. I'm not going to change at this point.
Okay, so I know from looking at the predictions that Riley and Daniel, you're both going with Lee Jung-jae as well. Daniel, is there any one that are you feeling confident about that?
Not particularly. I think Riley was right when he said we might be overthinking and underestimating the Succession guys who didn't have a problem with the vote split last time. And, you know, so one of them could easily win again this time, especially if Succession wins Best Drama Series. So I really think Brian Cox and Jeremy Strong are incredibly strong in this category. And like, if one of them wins, I'll be like, you know, face palm, thinking like, why did we think that they would lose again after, you know, Succession was going to win? but yeah, I've got Lee Jung-jae, the SAG Award, the vote split, just overall passion for the show. I think Lee Jung-jae could win even without a Succession vote split potentially. Just considering how much passion there is for Squid Game that we saw at Creative Arts. Yeah, so I'm not fully confident.
And Riley?
Yeah, I switched over to Lee Jung-jae just today, actually, probably just a couple hours ago. I was really with Tony on Bob Odenkirk because I do feel like there's a lot of sympathy for him, and the series finale aired during voting. So I think there's a lot of buzz there. I don't think voters are going to be broken up if they don't give Lee Jung-jae his award when they have this opportunity. I think it'll be easily forgotten, whereas they might want to, pat Bob Odenkirk on the back. And I'll say also just a missed opportunity is Jason Bateman, because he's very likely going to win his third SAG award for this role, for a role that he's directing, producing. It's his final season. You'd think that he would have, the stars had aligned for him to win an acting Emmy, but it's really not going to happen.
I have Jason Bateman in third. I've even had him in second for a little while. I think he is definitely the dark horse. He has won SAG, and he is Ozark, and he's very, very beloved with amongst his peers. And if that happens, I will not be surprised. In fact, we've got a great article by a freelancer, Jack Mahanes, on Gold Derby if you want to read it before the show. It's just published. So, look, okay, I think we are pretty much out of time.
And the prediction center is closed.
And the prediction center is closed, so it's too late. Do you all want to quickly throw out to me a name that you're most, like your no guts, no glory? Quick, just like Tony, have you got one in particular that you're going for that no one else is?
No. I think I'm one of the few that's going with Henry Winkler.
Yeah. Okay.
That's mine.
And Daniel?
I wouldn't say they're no guts, no glory necessarily, because I think they're like ranked second in our odds. I've got Lily James and Black Lady Sketcho. Well, Black Lady Sketcho has to be ranked second in our odds because there are only two nominees. So yeah, those are the two, probably the boldest.
Yeah. And Riley?
I've got Jason Sudeikis. I don't think Barry can recover from that Sarah Goldberg snub within the actors branch.
Yeah, it's so telling that Sarah Goldberg snub just really bothers me.
Oh, I have a whole theory behind that, but that's for another time.
Okay. Look, I think it's time to call it a day. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on this pre-show marathon. Enjoy the Emmys tonight. I hope it's a good show. I really do. Please do a good job. Don't screw it
makes
up.
it easier for me to write about it.
True. I want to see clips. Don't waste our time with bullshit banter. And let's just have a really great night, everybody. And we'll see you all for the post show that is being hosted by my mate, Matt Noble, and hopefully. And we will see you then.